So, Michael, of course, we are reviewing A Time to Kill today, and you might think that, it's a bit of an irrelevant movie, but you have just told me why it is, in fact, one of the most relevant movies you could ever ask for.
And it's because this tells the story of a vigilante justice, and it reminds us, of course, of another hero fighting for vigilante justice, one Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yes, one Kyle Rittenhouse, who is currently on trial for just killing a couple of people who had, I think, skateboards who were going to decapitate him with, and of course, he couldn't let that happen, so he bravely shot them, before they could kill anyone. I mean, obviously, you are correct. So this is a very relevant movie. There is always a time to kill. Kyle Rittenhouse knew the time, and Samuel L. Jackson knows the time in this movie. So yeah, now this will get so many views because of that.
Yeah, we just need to put Kyle Rittenhouse in the thumbnail, really badly cropped in, and people are like, wow, I have to know what's happening there, and then I'll listen to this, and then I'll immediately click off because I'll be like, oh, it's just nonsense.
That's when we do the bank poll video on Kyle Rittenhouse. We will have A Time to Kill ? As the thumbnail.
The most ambitious crossover in history.
Great.
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke. And this week we are celebrating the 25-year anniversary of the film A Time to Kill. And that's the film that we're doing. And Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about A Time to Kill?
Sure thing, Michael. You didn't forget the name of the movie then, did you?
You know what? I keep forgetting the name of this movie, to be honest. I feel like I almost did it during the cold open too.
Okay, well, A Time to Kill is a 1996 American courtroom crime drama film based on the John Grisham 1989 novel of the same name. Okay, so this was 7 years later. Were the KKK around just 7 years earlier? Maybe that makes more sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Let's get to that when we come to it. So, the movie stars Sandra Bullock, Samuel L. Jackson, Matthew McConaughey, and Kevin Spacey. Were you very happy when you saw Kevin Spacey in this movie, Michael?
Yeah. It's just, I mean, at the end of the day, you do have to remind yourself that he does live his life as a gay man.
Yes, he does. Also stars Brenda Fricker, Oliver Platt.
Did you just say Brendan Fraser?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
Because he's not in this movie, obviously. Charles S. Dutton, Donald Sutherland, Ashley Judd, Patrick Gowan, and Kiefer Sutherland. So yeah, quite a lot of famous names, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it was really all-star. I mean, I don't know, I felt like it fell off a bit towards the end there, but definitely...
what do you mean in terms of the people appearing in the movie who were famous?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's a great... Yeah, maybe you meant that criticism for another part of the movie. Yeah, and got mixed up there. Maybe
You're
that's
right.
what you did.
No, yeah. But you know what, overall, I mean, yeah, I did think there were a lot of famous people, and
sorry, just to say, this is one of Matthew McConaughey's first major roles.
Oh, really? Okay. What was the film where he actually said, all right, all the time? There was a film where he really did that a lot, and I can't remember what it was.
Was it fucking Dallas Buyers Club?
No, that's too late. No, he did it. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's definitely a 90s film. But yeah, I really wish he did it in this.
You know, I'm going to check after.
Especially what he should have done when he saw the jury. Okay, this is a great one. When he saw the jury, he should have gone, oh, white.
Oh, white. God damn it. Because he's not happy, obviously. That is a white jury. Yeah. So, July the 24th, 1996 was when this movie was released, Michael. So, 25-year anniversary, which is why we're doing it this year. But, of course, this movie came out in July. And, to be honest, it looks... Throughout this movie, it looks really hot. Like, it's in Mississippi. All the actors are, sweating all the time. It's this is definitely more of a summer movie than fucking whatever climate we're in right now. But anyway, Michael, the budget... How much did this cost to make?
So you said it was obviously kind of all-star, if you will. But then having said that, I mean, you also pointed out that Matthew McConaughey was not that big of a deal back then. This was one of his first major roles. I mean, I don't even know about Kevin Spacey. Obviously, this was before a lot of... I mean, it was after The Usual Suspects, I think. I'm trying to work out when the Usual Suspects actually was a thing. But with all that said...
think about it, Michael. We have reviewed The Usual Suspects.
Yeah, but the thing is, it could have been a 20-year anniversary for like 1990. No, yeah, it was definitely before then. All right, no, yeah.
So you worked out all by yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, okay, yeah, good. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'm kind of thinking, Samuel L. Jackson was definitely big here. So, well, yeah. So, I don't know, maybe, but then like I don't think anything else would have cost a huge amount of money. So, 20 million,
40 million,
40 million. Okay,
yeah, you are
halfway there, living on a prayer.
Yeah. So there you go. 40 million. By the way, the movie that Matthew McConaughey said, all right, was Dazed and Confused.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
So there you go. Box office now, Michael. How much did this make at the box office?
Well, I mean, I really have no idea. I don't actually know, for example, what kind of kudos this film got. Never mind the fact that, it's... Because I know, like, there's a thing about... films that did well at the Oscars tended to do better in the 90s, because that was back when the Oscars had like a pulse on the public's opinion, and also the public cared about the Oscars. But I didn't even know how well this film did at the Oscars, if it even did anything at the Oscars. That would be useful information. But overall, I mean, could it have made like a huge amount of money? I mean, we're talking about it. It's famous. I have heard of it. So I guess based on that, I'm going to say it made like maybe 150 million. No, that's too much. 100.
No.
Oh, really?
No, you're right. See, this is the thing. Even when you get it right, you're like, nah, that's too much. You have to self-sabotage yourself and guess too low.
That's kind of funny.
So, 152 million.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, no, there you go. That was spot on. I mean, it is like an easy thing. It's 150, quite a round number. So
yeah,
I can
understand,
that was, if you were to
I
guess
wasn't going to say
correctly,
152, to be fair.
Yeah. Again, that's the thing. If you the ones I find you guess correctly, it's like either like 100 or 150 or 200, 250. But still, well done, Michael, for getting it practically spot on. But I forgot to mention, by the way, who directed this movie.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting information.
Yeah, it was Joel Schumacher.
Oh, that's really interesting. I mean, I feel like I should make a specific comment on something to do with his Batman films, but
yeah, I mean, look, I think this is if you told me, I knew going in this was directed by Joel Schumacher, but if you told me afterwards, I would not be surprised, given the great filmmaking,
the enthusiasm for vigilante justice.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, there's a common theme in his work, but of course this was a novel originally, wasn't him writing it. Yeah. But yeah, maybe he likes to take on those projects. Maybe
Batman, more like Black Man.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, and maybe fucking Samuel L. Jackson can have his own credit card. Just for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, Michael, Time to Kill. Did you like this movie?
No, I would say on balance, I probably found this film kind of average. I'm not. You were kind of telling me this film. You were like, oh no, this film would be a really interesting film to review. You did. You seemed quite enthusiastic about it, and then I did scout it out, and I was like, yeah, I would like to talk about this film. But yeah, overall, I actually think in terms of my opinion on the quality of the film, it's pretty just in the middle. But I don't know what you think.
Wow, I can't believe your lack of enthusiasm for this movie.
No, the thing is, okay, just to clarify, I think there's a lot to talk about this film. I think this film's interesting. But yeah, actually, in terms of the quality, I'm not that enthusiastic.
Oh, no, I don't think it's good.
Oh, yeah, good.
I don't think it's a good movie. I don't think there's a lot of quality there. But to just say, it's an average movie. No, you're totally underselling how amazing this movie is.
Well,
the thing is, I wanted to review this movie because I knew about it.
Yeah, more than Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, because I much rather review this than Beauty and the Beast, because this movie is funny in a lot of areas, and I just love it so much. There's so many moments where I was laughing at it, and it's just a really good time overall. I don't think you can you get past the first scene and a bit, which is quite harrowing, of course, and then the rest is just great.
It's quite melodramatic.
Oh yes, melodramatic is a word I'd use, and there was also another movie that description fits for, Michael. If you remember earlier on in the year when we reviewed I Am Sam.
Yeah.
And again, not a movie that's forgotten, but it's a fun movie, and this one is the same, I believe. A melodramatic movie for sure. But there was one moment, Michael, where you said, "Well, here's the thing. You messaged me saying that you did in fact like this movie." And or you wanted to review it.
I wanted to talk about it.
And I said, well, there's one moment. Is there one moment? Because you hadn't finished the movie, and you messaged me saying, yeah. So was there a moment?
Well, I didn't actually realize how close I was to the end of the movie. And it was, it was actually, the thing is, I should say, it wasn't really one moment. It was more like I guess a better analogy would be like a straw that broke the camel's back, because it's kind of like there was already stuff. To be honest, it was just Matthew McConaughey's final speech, which, like I say, was very very close to the end, as it turned out. But yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, this is worth talking about.
Yeah. I can't wait to get onto that. But anyway, Michael, nitpicks, how many do you have?
I've got one.
I've got one and a lit pick.
Okay, so yeah.
You go first.
I feel like Matthew McConaughey coming home to his family with blood on him seems like a weird thing to do, just because it's kind of like, surely, I mean, if he's, I don't really know how he got all of that blood on him, but I would just think, surely, do people usually who are involved in a situation just go home to their family just bloodstained? It just seems like they've got to have a policy to prevent that.
Okay, well, that's yours. Mine was the sheriff at the end, who is of course black. At the end of the movie, how does he know one of his officers was in the KKK?
Yeah, they did brush over that.
Yeah, they really did. He's like, "Oh, you deserve to be with them," and it's like, "Well, how the fuck did you find that out?" Just seems, and if you found that out, wouldn't you confront him earlier over it, not like at the end of the trial?
Yeah,
I don't know.
He's like, "Oh, Matthew McConaughey's having his moment."
Yeah, let's just wait until the trial is done, so the movie can be done. So yeah, we can. Yeah, this can be a wrap up moment, I guess, at the end. And my lit pick is when Donald Sutherland, he's at the funeral of Ethel, Matthew McConaughey's secretary, and Donald Sutherland says to this woman, "Oh yeah, do you want to help me to my car?" And Donald Sutherland says, "You don't need help, but it would be my honor to escort you to my automobile."
He's moving in there real quick.
Yeah.
The body's not even cold. Like, don't worry, man, I'll help you out.
Yeah, but it's just like the over the top.
Yeah.
Most southern thing. Like, I will be my honor to escort you to your automobile, not just your car, your automobile.
Yeah,
I love
he
it.
should have been driving Miss Daisy.
Well, not really, Michael, because he isn't black.
I know.
And I don't know if you paid attention to Driving Miss Daisy, but that's a pretty crucial element of it.
Oh, it was pretty subtle.
Yeah, okay, so let's get into the concept of this movie, A Time to Kill. So, what about if you took To Kill a Mockingbird? The black man is on trial in To Kill a Mockingbird, but this time he is guilty. Well, he did actually murder people. It's not like a case of mistaken identity like it was in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yes.
And what about if it was a pro-death penalty, pro-vigilantism movie as well?
Yes.
It attempts to be kind of honest about the South and its racism, but also at the end it shows it has, there's hope for the South as well. I just think, there's so many different elements going on here, with the death penalty, the vigilantism, of course, the racial politics at play.
Yes.
It's just one hell of a movie, and it does not handle any of these subjects with the subtlety these subjects deserve.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I was watching, so like, yes, there is a lot to just unpack here, which is why, it's kind of, it does put me in a weird situation where, like I say, I do think there is a lot to talk about, and overall my opinion on the quality of the film. You didn't actually say what you thought about, you said the film was fun, I don't know, but you didn't actually say whether or not you thought the film was bad.
Well, look, obviously I think this is a bad movie. That was I
know it's kind of implied.
No. When Samuel L. Jackson was hoisting his kid up at the end of the movie, the thoughts going through my head was, oh, this is a really bad movie. Like, this is a bad movie because, of course, of what he had just gotten away with and the message that the movie was trying to portray.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Had you seen? So when did you seen this film, by the way?
I saw it a few months ago.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was wondering to myself, obviously, because you were, like I say, you were enthusiastic to watch this film, so I was wondering.
Yeah. So I knew we were having some gaps in our
so you did some scouting.
Schedule. Exactly, scouting is a good word for it. Just because there are some movies where you pencil, oh, could this be interesting to talk about? And it's like, well, it generated a lot of money, and people know kind of about it. Like I hadn't heard of A Time to Kill actually before I went scouting for movies. That's how I'll phrase it. Scouting for movies, much cooler than scouting for girls.
Obviously. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's gay.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, obviously, I picked this movie out because it's this is something that I think we can really have some fun talking about. So, obviously, there are crimes that basically onto the plot. So there are crimes that happen early on in this movie. So there's the rape of the 10-year-old girl, and also, of course, the murder of the two rapists by the girl's dad, who's of course played by Samuel L. Jackson. And then, so that happens basically. That sets up the whole movie. That's the, everything afterwards. Basically, all the act. Well, I guess the KKK get involved, so you can't really say all the action happens in the first 20 minutes. But yeah, everything else just reacts off that.
They really kind of jump into it early on with the two main incidents. They blow their load early.
Okay. I'm not going to say anything. Just leave that there. But yeah, the thing is, obviously, I think the KKK, they don't have to get involved, but they are. And the thing is, this movie is 2.5 hours long. And the KKK keep showing up for like an hour after. So yeah, you have like the first 20-30 minutes, which is setting up the movie. And then the next hour until like an hour and a half into the movie, you have like the KKK doing stuff, all the characters like doing stuff, getting ready for the trial. Yeah. And then an hour and a half into it's crazy how long it is. An hour and a half into the movie, then the trial actually starts. And of course that, basically goes to the end of the movie. That's it. I do think the middle part basically is very bloated and very unnecessary. But, some of those scenes are quite fun. So we'll take it. Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, I definitely did think there was a lot of just... it does feel like filler, which is, of course, incredibly unnecessary considering, as you already say, the length of the film. Like, there was no point where I really thought to myself, maybe it is because, kind of, as you already said, you've got the two main action things happening quite early on. So maybe they're like, well, we need to have the action, we need to have lots of action later on too. So, we'll just have the KKK show up, to cause some ruckus.
I do think that is what they were thinking. I mean, of course, it's based on a novel, but you can cut stuff out of the novel if you want, and I won't, and I never have, and you never should be like, well, we can't really blame the movie for a bad decision because it was in the novel. No, you cut that shit out if you need to. No excuses. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely none. And it was like, well, the author wanted those scenes to be in there. Well, then you've made a bad movie. I'm sorry. What do you want me to say? So anyway, let's start off with the beginning. Naturally, so in the town of Canton, Mississippi. Just the most fucking redneck, like of all the southern states, Mississippi is number one in terms of just like the most redneck state.
Yeah,
right?
It's not got. I mean, that's the thing. They also had Mississippi Burning, right? Which was about.
Oh, that's a great movie.
Yeah. So basically, the story is that Mississippi. Also, I feel like one time John Oliver, our hero, made a joke about like it was something about like It might have even been with gay marriage, and he was saying lots of states have passed laws legalizing gay marriage. The question is, which state's going to be last? Mississippi. Who could it possibly be? Mississippi. And the joke is that Mississippi will obviously be the last one to do it because they're Mississippi.
Yeah. It is the most southern backward redneck state ever. I mean, and that is saying something. But yeah, have you seen Mississippi Burning, by the way?
You know what? I saw it actually when I was in school. We did like a history unit on
Whoa, you used that as a history.
Yeah, I don't really remember it. That's the thing.
Oh my god! Well,
it falls into category of something which I watched at school and therefore didn't actually care that much about. Which is,
oh my god!
That's
it's pretty bad in terms of its historical accuracy for a number of reasons.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that.
Yeah, mainly because it portrays the FBI as the good guys.
Yes.
In the fight against racial segregation.
I do remember that. It's like I wish I could honestly I haven't seen the film in like ages.
Well, you know what? When we review that, that'll be fun.
Yeah, anyway, I am looking forward to rewatching it.
10-year-old African-American Tonya Haley is abducted, raped, and beaten by two local white men, Billy Ray Cobb and James Willard. So, first off the bat, here's the thing. Of course, you know what's going to, if you read the blurb of the movie, you know what's going to happen, so you expect this. But these two rednecks who do this are like the biggest caricatures you could possibly find. Like, they're so unsubtle in how evil they are. They're going around chucking beers at the black people. Like,
if anything, it's a shock they haven't done all of this before.
Yeah, knocking over crisps and, like, a massive... basically, it's just a massive red flag, I guess. Right away. Oh, these guys are really evil.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't think all of that was necessary. You could have just had them rape the kid. Like... I just think it's just, again, incredible filmmaking. Oh, we need to make these guys bad as possible. Like, why? Why do you need to do that?
Yeah.
But I guess to make them seem as unsympathetic as possible, so you'd support Samuel L. Jackson. But I think, pretty much like their action against you don't need any more than that.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, I think it's always a good sign when calling an African American boy is the least racist thing they do in the time they're alive. They're like, clean it up, boy.
It's just, they're complete caricatures. And, so, again, not necessary, but we're off to a great start.
Also, one of their names is literally Billy Ray. that's such a redneck name.
Yeah, just the most rednecks, the reddest necks you can find.
Yeah, you felt like their dad's going to be Cletus.
Yeah.
And,
No, Cletus is less of a caricature. than
I
these
don't
guys.
remember so good since I drank my thermometer.
Okay, so Tanya's father, Carl Lee Haley, contacts Jake Briggins, who is of course played by Matthew McConaughey. Carl Lee Haley is played by Samuel L. Jackson. So he is a white lawyer who previously defended his brother. Matthew McConaughey admits the possibility that the rapists will walk free, and we'll get onto that later. So Samuel L. Jackson goes to the county courthouse and opens fire with an automatic rifle, killing both rapists. So this scene is great. Do you enjoy this scene? Like, he's standing behind bars and he looks like an animal in a cage, which is a weird choice, I have to say.
He does look pretty menacing.
Yeah, but it's not the menacing, it's the fact that he's behind a cage, which is interesting, I have to say. But anyway, this is what is so stupid about this scene. Or him, not the scene, him doing this, okay? This is what I love. Like, point one, and this is pretty crucial, I think. His daughter is alive, and his daughter will recover, obviously. Now, of course, what happened to her was horrible, but if his daughter was dead, I would understand it more. But the fact is that she is alive, so she is going to therefore grow up without you if you do this and get, like, the death penalty.
Yeah.
So right there, I'm like, well, if the daughter was dead, I can understand it, but she's not. And I think this is probably the most important point, I will say, and that is that they haven't gone to trial yet.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I thought that was weird. It's like, they might go. It's kind of like you can just kill someone. I mean, as of course, I feel like the KKK should realize at the end of this film, you could just kill someone after they've been found innocent.
Yeah, at least wait until the trial is over to kill them if they get off. Like, if they walk out the door innocent, like free men, just kill them then, man.
Yeah, and that's easier, if anything. You don't have to sneak into the courthouse. Which
exactly.
Actually, I mean, I was just going to say, another thing which I found weird is, like, he could have just at least had a shot at killing them kind of covertly. I mean, I know it would be difficult, but I mean, bloody...
that'd be very difficult.
Well, the guy with the sniper, the white guy with the sniper, the white racist did it. So you're saying that a black man couldn't do what a white racist could do?
Well, he didn't though.
Yeah, I know, but sorry, what I'm saying is he had a good old crack at it.
Yeah, but if you're Samuel L. Jackson, you don't care about cracks. You want to fucking kill these people. You don't care about
crackers.
But, you don't, do you? But that's the thing, like, just wait until they haven't even been trialed. Maybe they get, I don't know what the harshest penalty is for rape and attempted murder. Probably like life in jail, I'm guessing. Yeah. And maybe they just plead guilty. That's the thing. Maybe they haven't even decided they're pleading not guilty. Just at least wait for that. Because if they plead guilty, then they're done. Like, they're getting jail time for years and years and years. And you may not have to do anything. And that's the crazy thing. I just can't believe this happened before the trial. It's insane. And I don't know, like, of course he's worried that, because of what happened, or, the racial justice system and how black people are treated, they're worried that, they might get off. But there's just mountains of evidence against them.
This would be like if somebody showed up at the Derek Chauvin trial and just killed him immediately. It's like, dude, he might have been found guilty.
I literally wrote that down in my notes. It's probably a Derek Chauvin case where it's like, okay, we'll let them have this one. It's so obvious. We got him on video that this guy killed this black guy.
So it's a gimme.
It's a white police officer killing this black guy. It's very... Let's just let them have this one so everybody feels better. And, we don't want to do it, but we'll have to. And, basically throw people a bone. I think that was kind of the thinking with the Derek Chauvin
That's what I was kind of thinking with this, because, they do, they really... I mean, like I say, these guys, they're not very nice guys. I did have another thing to say about the kind of...
No, sorry, Mike. It's just the girl's shoe was found in their truck.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Like, how do you get... Like, how do you convince a jury they're not guilty if that's the case? I know, like, there's racism and all that, but again, this is the mid-1990s, which we'll get onto again when we talk about it's not the 1960s anymore, which is a very important theme of this movie. But yeah, go on.
No, I was just going to say, like, the other thing about it is, like, in terms of kind of... I mean, it relates to the pacing. Like, I know we said this film's bloated in some areas, but honestly, like, the fact that you get these two things that happen so close to each other, it kind of... it is, like, a bit much to happen so quickly. And it's kind of like... I think if they obviously... from a practicality standpoint, it would have been a bit difficult to have the entire trial of these two, guys happen and then be found guilty and then Samuel Jackson does his thing. But what they could have done is had a thing where, like, the trial goes on for maybe like a day or two and it becomes, for some reason, like, it's like, okay, they're almost certainly going to get off. Like for some reason, but again, the problem is, as you kind of already pointed out, how on earth would that even be a thing? Because it's so obvious. But maybe have a thing where they give all their best evidence, and for some reason, like there's like a scene where the prosecutor or the defense attorney just says, "Well, that's nonsense," and then the jury's like, "Yeah, I agree, it's nonsense. Who cares that the thing?" So then Samuel L. Jackson's like, "Oh, I've got to do it now," and then you just kind of like you have the pacing sorted out a bit, and also it's kind of like you're like, okay, obviously this is stupid that they, you know, that they're not going to accept it, but at least it's like Samuel L. Jackson isn't stupid, you know, the jury's stupid, so at least that's slightly better.
Again, just wait, like before they even go to trial, before they even plead guilty or not guilty. Oh god, it's insane. But anyway, so this movie, point number two, Michael. Well, not point number two, but is it point number two? I'm not sure. Basically, we're going to talk about how this movie is supporting two things which I don't agree with, and how this movie shouldn't support. One of them is the death penalty, which I think is the bigger issue, really. Is it bigger than, I don't know. Well, let's talk about the vigilantism, Michael, first.
Yes, let's talk about the vigilantism.
Yes, because this movie is very much on board with vigilantism. Because the thing is, of course, like Samuel L. Jackson kills these two people who raped his kid, and you are meant to root for him to be acquitted of this double murder. And of course, Matthew McConaughey is on his side, you know, not just in terms of like he's his lawyer. He takes up the case because, you know, he agrees with him. And also he is, you know, he's the good, like he's the main protagonist of the movie.
I like how you stopped yourself before saying good lawyer, because it's like he's the good lawyer who's against the fundamental principles of justice in a Western liberal society.
Yes, okay. So, but that's the thing. I was thinking while watching this, like, okay, it's awful what happens to this guy's daughter, obviously, but you can't do that. You can't just walk into a courtroom and gun people down before they've even stood trial. Like, plus, it's the most stupid thing ever. Like, Donald Sutherland says, well, justice will prevail either way.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm like, no, it won't have. No, it won't have. Like, Kevin Spacey, who was meant to be the bad guy in this movie, again, he's kind of a caricature. Like, they could have just had him like the normal prosecuting lawyer, but he's obviously like meant to be the bad guy. He's got some bad qualities about him. He says, our society can't let people take the law into their own hands, regardless of the circumstances. And he's 100% right.
Yes. I know. It's just, oh dear. So it is really funny when you think about the fact this guy also directed Batman. That's really hard. But no, I mean, obviously, it is. It's definitely true. Kind of makes me excited for when we review Promising Young Women, which isn't even too far away. But no, basically being a vigilante. I mean, I will say this, like, and this kind of is touching on the death penalty as well. But I was just going to say, like, I can understand from, like, a kind of emotional perspective wanting to be a vigilante. Like, I can understand, like, oh, you'd want to do that. It's kind of like, I'm like, okay, I can understand why Samuel L. Jackson would want to do that. But it's like, then there's the kind of more reasoned political thing, which is, like you say...
Oh, no, everyone can understand that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
People aren't, like, I like you how you have to push it, but people can understand. That's good. You understand humans, Michael. That's very good.
I'm a hero.
Yeah, you are. You know, maybe you're not a robot after all.
Yeah, sometimes I understand humans.
Yeah, sometimes you do. But that's the thing. Obviously, you'd want to do that, but you realise,
it's not good.
Okay, maybe you can do that, but you have to realise, okay, he has to pay the penalty for doing that. And again, it's stupid he does it before a fucking trial as well. But that's the thing, like, this movie tries to convince you, do everything in its power, like, yes, this vigilante choice that Samuel L. Jackson took, this is the right thing to do with, of course, Kevin Spacey. He's the evil lawyer.
Yes.
Matthew McConaughey, he's the good lawyer. And even the white cop that has been shot by this black guy, and now has lost his leg, is like, I would have done the same thing. Like, turn him loose. It's just so funny.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's on board with it.
Yeah, if this white cop who lost his leg because of Samuel L. Jackson forgives him and supports his vigilantism, then you should too. Get on his side, audience. Get on his side. And again, Matthew McConaughey, the protagonist, like, let's not forget the whole reason he takes the case is because he thinks Samuel L. Jackson did the right thing. And that is a good reason. Like, his wife comes in and he's like, I thought you were just trying to be a big time lawyer, get your face on the news. But now I see it's because you're defending a man who fucking killed two people in cold blood. I love you.
It is. It's really. Definitely, it is true. Like, the film, it's so non-reflective on, like, what it's all. Yeah, it's kind of just like. It's like manipulate. I mean, it is manipulation.
No, that's what it's literally. It is. It's manipulation, but I love how obvious the manipulation is. That's what makes it so funny. Like, how obvious this movie is trying to convince you this is he did the right thing. And of course, I'm just thinking, like, no, you're not going to make me You're not going to turn me to your side. No matter how good-looking Matthew McConaughey is, no matter how evil the KKK are, and how dismissive Kevin Spacey is. Isn't that boy still in law school?
He should have been killed for that.
Yeah, he should have.
Justice is served.
Okay, so that's one point in the movie. Again, it's just hilarious how how pro-vigilante it is. Like it's vigilante propaganda, and we'll get onto that later. It's hilarious how obvious it is and transparent. But let's get onto the fact that it's not the 1960s anymore, Michael, but this movie, A Time to Kill, seems to think it is.
Yeah, I was like, actually, for a minute, I was trying to kind of work out, like, when is this film supposed to be set? And obviously, I'm sure there are a lot of like visual things to it. But I was like thinking to myself, this feels like it's not set in the modern, or like contemporary to the 1990s. I was like, oh, apparently it is.
Yeah, apparently it is. I mean, there's no indication this is set, any time other than 1996. So that's where it's set. And of course, there's Samuel L. Jackson talks about at the beginning that there's these 4 white boys that got off raping this black girl. I think he says last year. Yeah. And I'm just thinking, well, there's a reason why Emmett Till is famous. It sounds like a case like that. Like Emmett Till, who he I think he was accused of looking at a white woman.
Yeah,
and
basically
he was killed. Yeah, and of course that's a very famous. And if something like that happened in 1995, I'm sure it would be a case that you would remember. It wouldn't be, remember what happened last year? It would be like a national case. Like it would have a name. Like it wouldn't just be something that happened. And that's the thing. Like there is a chance that could happen, no doubt about it. Of course, the criminal justice system in America is racist, but I really doubt things like that are that common. Where it's like, oh, you remember what happened last year? It's like that. If that would happen, that would be a national scandal, wouldn't it? Especially in the mid-1990s, of course.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, obviously, like that is the thing. Like, basically, everything in this film. It's like, to be fair, this film, it's a bit like, it's a bit like The Force Awakens. It's saying that everything happened in the past didn't really count for anything. That's my comparison of it. It's like, basically, if this film was accurate, then Martin Luther King was pointless.
Oh, well, who's the real Martin? No, that's the thing. It's like, well, we'll get onto Martin Luther King later, actually. But, so the brother of the rapist, of course, he's, at his funeral, and he says 10 years ago that he would be hung, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm not really sure. 10 years ago, 1986, maybe 30. Again, this movie just doesn't know what time it is, but apparently it's A Time to Kill. That's what time it is. But of course, this leads to the Klan coming back. And again, this is such we talked about an unsubtle movie which presents racial politics. Well, it presents every single topic it touches with such unsubtlety that, of course, when it touches on racial politics, naturally the KKK have to be involved. Of course, they have to be involved. You wouldn't expect anything else from this movie. And it's the biggest caricatures of all in terms of racial politics in America, the KKK. And here's the thing, of course, in the mid-1990s, as you could pretty much imagine, the KKK are kind of dead.
Yeah.
Like even the brother, who's played by Kiefer Sutherland, says, "Well, I thought, are you guys still around? Like, what's going on here? Aren't you dead?" And the guy's like, or the Grand Wizard, whatever the fuck he's called, is like, "No, we're not dead. We're just waiting for an opportunity to return." Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure, lads. Yeah, that's it. You're just waiting for an opportunity to return. That's why you only need about 5 people to start a chapter in a whole county." No, that makes total sense. And I mean, it just seems a bit ridiculous that they return, don't they, Michael? Doesn't it?
Yeah, basically. I mean, the thing is, it's like when they're kind of hanging around outside the courthouse, and it's like there's a lot of them, and it's almost like I found it interesting that the film was almost trying to imply like a divide in this society. Where it was.
Oh, I want to get into that later.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
I'm just talking about their return.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I mean, basically, I'm just saying, like, basically, the KKK, the fact that they're presented as the representatives implies that, they're like, because obviously, I mean, I would assume that the KKK existed in some capacity in the 1990s. Like, I would assume.
It exists.
But David Duke was around in the. Or was he? I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, David Duke was around, I think, in the early 1990s.
Yeah, but basically, I mean...
But the thing is the KKK still exists and has existed for 150 years. Yeah. But like, that's the thing. The KKK, because the film has to acknowledge that, well, the KKK isn't really around. It's kind of dead. So they make up the excuse, like, no, they're just waiting for an opportunity.
Yeah.
And, it's...
and then it becomes this massive force in society all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly. And, of course... like Kiefer Sutherland, of course, he's probably a bit racist. like everyone. But again, it's quite a big step to go from that to then, fucking, a bit racist. Oh no, I'm going to join the KKK.
Yeah.
Like, of course, that a black guy murdered his brother, but I think you have to consider that the fact that your brother did rape a 10-year-old girl. Like, I think I don't think that would be unless he's already really racist. But he just seems to be presented as the stereotypical like redneck who then gets pushed to join the KKK, implying that all Southern people are just like a little push away from
every Southern person just constantly on the verge of joining the KKK. Also, actually, just on the subject of racial politics, the other thing, I'll start with the smaller thing. And we could mention it at another point, but like the juror, the one particular juror who's just like racist in a really funny way, where it's just like whenever the camera pans to him and he pulls like an evil face, and then he's like, and there's a bit where he's like kind of talking to people and he says like the N-word's gonna fry or something like that, and it's like he just says it in front of all the other jurors. And it's like that's but I also want to say, just like you kind of already mentioned it with Kevin Spacey's character being a bit of a stereotype, but like just the way that it's literally is like they're just talking so openly. Like I found it funny how openly he just talks about like manipulating the system with like when it comes to racial politics. Like he's just like, oh yeah, just manipulate so that they don't get the jury they want. Then we make sure that they die. And it's like,
the thing is, I mean, they do that though, Michael.
No, I know, but it's like it's kind of being so like open and malicious about it. I don't know.
Oh yeah, the maliciousness, of course. Yeah, but you could have mentioned that previously.
No, yeah.
Kevin Spacey is meant to be portrayed as evil. Yeah. Like specifically about the KKK. Yeah, that is a tactic that the lawyers would use. If they wanted a conviction. But anyway, let's talk about the fact that. Oh, by the way, did you see like when Kiefer Sutherland was handing out the applications to join the KKK? You have to put your telephone number and your social security number down to join the clan.
Oh well, that's funny. Yeah. No, I didn't see that, but yeah, good thing they've got organised.
Yeah, you need your social security number to join the clan.
I guess you can't be an illegal immigrant and join the clan.
No, that'd be awful.
Yeah.
So anyway, the KKK, of course, basically start being a nuisance. And, they put a cross on Matthew McConaughey's lawn, and his wife can't believe it. He's like, the KKK is putting a fucking cross on our lawn. And I'm like, yeah, I can't believe it either, Matthew McConaughey's wife. Like, yeah, that's what you call lampshading, I guess, Michael.
Yeah.
To use that term again, yes. And they try to bomb his house as well. And the thing is, why is this... all this stuff is ridiculous in terms of intimidation because, like, Samuel L. Jackson will just hire another lawyer. The reason why they did it back in the day was, like I said, intimidation, so nobody would take the case. Nobody would defend Samuel L. Jackson. But, people, as the NAACP show later on, would love to be involved in this case.
Yeah.
Like, white lawyers would love to be involved because it's a national case. You've got the media, getting involved. Your face is all over the news. Like, it's a different time. And that's pretty crucial in this section. It's not the 1960s anymore. Like, okay, well, you get rid of fucking Matthew McConaughey, another white lawyer who's maybe better than him will just step in. So these intimidation tactics are pretty pointless. So again, 30 years, Michael, times have changed. Who would know?
Yeah, I mean, actually, just one other thing. I'm not sure, but it seemed like the nature of the trial, or like. There was a thing where like everyone was like, oh, obviously Samuel L. Jackson's really sympathetic, but then it seems as if they were also saying that Kevin Spacey needed to be the prosecutor, or that it helped him to be the prosecutor because it would make him more popular with voters. Like that seemed to be a thing, and I was like, surely this is actually like the worst thing that you would want to be dealing with as a prosecutor, because it's basically a situation where Samuel L. Jackson, while obviously he should be found guilty, is very sympathetic. Like I kind of thought to myself like. Getting involved in it because it's high profile makes sense, but it seemed like they had this like idea that Kevin Spacey should be getting involved with it because it.
He's banking on the fact that a lot of white people will want to see this black guy convicted who did murder 2 people.
Yeah, but obviously they didn't count on the fact that even the guy who got his leg shot loved this black guy.
Exactly. No, but Kevin Spacey is thinking logically, and this movie is not that logical. And okay, so we'll get onto that later as well. Yeah. But the thing is, back to the KKK, this happens for like an hour, like I said earlier in the movie. It's constantly the clan are just constantly doing stuff, and people are reacting to that because they think they need to drag this movie out as much as possible. Like Matthew McConaughey's house gets attacked, I think 3 times.
Yes,
3 times for fuck's sake. Like it's like, okay, we can do this once. Maybe twice, but 3 fucking times. I'm like, have you got nothing else, movie? Is that it? Nothing else to write? I mean, the fucking brother even shoots someone outside the courtroom.
Yeah.
it's like these people are scared, or the writers, sorry, are scared that people will eventually get bored with this movie.
Yeah.
You know, so we need to have the KKK do something, you know, and we need to have the fucking brother stand outside a courtroom and fucking snipe fucking
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey. Just the most unrealistic thing ever. It is so funny though when he did that. I loved it when he did that. It's
Yeah.
so ridiculous.
No, yeah,
but yes.
I agree absolutely with you. It's like the film doesn't. I mean, it would be like if Philadelphia just randomly decided to introduce like I don't know, the Westboro Baptist Church and suddenly make them like a million times popular.
Yeah,
and also
they're trying to snipe Denzel Washington.
yeah, exactly. Like just courtroom dramas can be. I mean, there are a lot of bad courtroom dramas, but to be fair, I don't think there's any courtroom drama that's more afraid than this film to just be a courtroom drama. Like it literally just has to have like all this other stuff going on.
That is a good point. Yeah, it is. It does seem afraid. Like people are going to switch off. People aren't going to care. So we need the KKK just going around like doing stuff. And again, it helps. Because of course the KKK are against Samuel L. Jackson. So naturally, then you want to be on Samuel L. Jackson and Matthew McConaughey's side, obviously. So it's more manipulation, I guess. But anyway, so the NAACP come in. I love this scene, Michael. I tried to get Samuel L. Jackson to hire another lawyer who will do the case for $7,000. And it's just a complete caricature of the NAACP because, of course, they just want to be involved in the case and they look callous and self-serving. They don't really care about what happens to Samuel L. Jackson. But again, the black guy at the end, when he goes to Samuel L. Jackson, why'd you want this cracker representing you?
Yeah, it's so just brilliant. I liked the representation of the NAACP.
Yeah, I know, it's great. And like the thing is, what I loved is the lawyer he wants to hire is also a fucking cracker.
I know, yeah, exactly.
It's also a white person. Oh my god.
Maybe it's like I can't be racist against white people. My lawyer's white.
That's nice 90s liberalism though. Like, okay, the KKK are bad, but the NAACP, well, they're not as bad as the KKK, but they're still like, they're still, meddlers, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like maybe, and I could be going crazy here, but like, this was probably around the time of like I feel like I'm going to pronounce his first name wrong, Louis Farrakhan. And like I think I'm right in saying there was like a whole thing about people thought Louis Farrakhan was like a kind of grifter, and he was like using African American empowerment or whatever to like advance himself, and lots of people were very suspicious of him. I think that was the thing that was around in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean,
I could see that being the case.
It's true.
Yeah,
that is true. But I mean, it's probably because Farrakhan's been a national figure for as long as I can remember in America.
Yeah.
But anyway,
so I'm just saying, maybe that was like that's kind of like one of the things that was in the political consciousness, this idea of like say these African American grifters. Yeah,
no, for sure. Yeah, and the NAACP are portrayed as that, and also fucking racist as well, which is great to see. But yeah, again, a bit ridiculous. But Sandra Bullock,
such a funny word.
I know it is.
I know like Louis C.K., but we've already mentioned Kevin Spacey, so I can mention Louis C.K. He's always like, what can you do? Call a white person a cracker? Oh, that really insults me, taking me back to that time of owning people.
Yeah, I know. It could. Yeah, I mean,
it's like it's not really much of a sick burn.
Yeah, I know, and of course the whole thing about like, of course because we don't live in America, have never been called crackers. There's another honky's the other one. They're very funny insults. But anyway, so Sandra Bullock up next. That's what we're going to talk about. So of course she helps in the trial, wants to help Samuel L. Jackson. And again, it's just this ridiculous contrived thing where Matthew McConaughey is like, what makes you think I need help?
Yeah, it is weird.
I can handle the case myself, even though the only reason the judge might have changed the venue of the trial is because of Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, it's so blatant. Like, it's so funny how he's blatantly contradicted.
Yeah, he's like contradicted so many times, and he's like, "Don't worry, sweetheart, I've got it." When he blatantly hasn't, it just makes him look so dumb.
I know.
Like
he is dumb.
This person who clearly is quite good at what she does. You're just looking at, what is it called? Staring gift horse in the mouth? Is that the phrase?
Yes, that is it.
Yeah. And he has to, like, he rejects her twice just because I guess they have to fill up runtime.
Yeah.
In the hour period before the trial starts, it's like, well, we've got a scene of Sandra Bullock being rejected by Matthew McConaughey, then the KKK burns something down, then another scene of Sandra Bullock being rejected by Matthew McConaughey. Yeah. It's so stupid. But of course, eventually for the third time, they meet, and of course, this gets us onto the pro-death penalty segment of the movie.
It's a good cliche because it's the like all the time that she's like being kind of reasonable and stuff, he's rejecting her, and then she just calls him an asshole, and boom, suddenly now he's like, oh, okay. That seems like a very kind of, that's like a cliche of like, and then I respected her or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't give his reason as to why he eyes her, but whatever. Maybe it's that. So yeah, again, this scene between Sandra Bullock and Matthew McConaughey, they meet each other for lunch, and the scene is specifically constructed so they can argue about the death penalty. So Matthew McConaughey believes it's good and should be used more, and then goes on to say, I love this, that he is a liberal. He just isn't a radical ACLU member.
That's true.
And as such a fucking perfect 1990s like centrist movie, like again, yes, we disavow the KKK and all the racism, and black people need to be treated fairly, but also on the other hand, the NAACP, bit of grifters, and they might be a bit racist themselves, and also like come on, like you got let's be reasonable here.
You gotta have the death penalty.
It's when in the 90s liberals quote unquote were basically conservatives, and anyone who wasn't was a radical. And again, like this is encapsulated later on in the movie that's what one character says, I guess Matthew McConaughey, and it's like I believe that is the position that the movie agrees with what he's saying. Yeah. Because Samuel L. Jackson, of course, when he's been questioned later on in the trial, he says that famous line.
Yes.
Like when Kevin Spacey asks him,
"Did they deserve to die?"
Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
Yeah.
The audience is meant to stand up and cheer. I mean, I have no doubt. That's what they're going to do. They're going to clap. Like, yes, you tell him, Samuel L. Jackson. You tell him. Yeah. So again, we're liberals. We support. We're cheering for the black guy. So that means we're not bad people because we're not racist. But we're also pro death penalty. Like, sometimes people deserve the death penalty. Sometimes that is the case. And of course, again, at the end of the movie when he's out and he's the hero, he's killed. He has sentenced these two guys who raped his daughter to death. Again, it's not just vigilantism; it's also pro death penalty in that regard as well. And even what's the title of the movie, Michael?
It's A Time to Kill, because there is sometimes, Luke, there's a time to kill.
Sometimes there is a time to kill. So this movie again very pro death penalty, and again very Matthew McConaughey can say he's a liberal, and they can be like, oh yeah, that we support the black guy here against the white guy, but it's a conservative movie at its heart again. But that's basically like. Most of the 1990s, all the liberals were kind of conservative.
Definitely. I do think. I mean, America, they're really behind on the whole death penalty thing. So, it's really. I mean, even still now, and I guess it's kind of like. I'm not sure if there's still people in the US who would call themselves liberals when they support the death penalty. I bet there are. But I feel like
I don't think so.
Well, it definitely would have been a thing. Like, I'm not really surprised in 1990s Mississippi that you would have. But obviously, I mean, the thing is, I think this film is supposed to, speak to a wider audience. And a wider audience that might consider themselves liberals, and obviously it's, I think it's probably true that even then it's still supposed to be kind of sympathetic with its message of, there is a time to kill. When someone's done something bad, you got to kill them.
Yeah, so this movie being quite manipulative, exactly, towards liberals who are like, well, I'm not pro-vigilantism necessarily, but, it's a black guy, and I care about racism, and he's been charged because of what happened to his black daughter, and there's a chance because of racism in America that he would have, he wouldn't have got justice. So and then he did kill them, but again, it's a rapist and all that. So it's like men are convinced these people. It's like maybe the death penalty and vigilantism also isn't that bad.
Also, of course, there's the famous Andy Dukakis. I remember there's the whole thing where he was asked if. His daughter, it was a really weird question. I remember it was, and you may have seen it. It was in a debate,
in a presidential.
And he says, if your daughter and wife were raped and murdered, would you support an irrevocable death penalty? And he said, no, I wouldn't. And that's considered his gaffe. His gaffe was a Democrat saying, no, I wouldn't support the death penalty.
I think the correct answer would have been to say, yes, I would, but I shouldn't choose.
That's I've actually always thought that too. Yeah, I think you should have said I mean, I would want them dead, but we shouldn't have our laws be defined by the whims of angry victims.
Well, that's not what this movie thinks.
Exactly,
this movie thinks exactly the opposite. Yeah. The whims of angry victims should decide what happens to the criminal perpetrators. Yeah. Yes. But anyway, so, of course, the trial is set to start. And again, this is what I wanted to talk about with the KKK, Michael. I just found this so funny. You had the KKK marching down the street in broad daylight, in the middle of the day, in the mid-1990s, And this isn't the 60s or earlier. This is in the mid 1990s. They're just
Yeah.
casually marching down the street, and then they go and fight the black protesters.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
It's-
I was laughing so much during this scene. It's so childish. It's so like ridiculous that you would put this in a movie concerning racial politics, like a very serious subject, and you're putting this scene in with the KKK attacks on black protesters. And again, there's this kid who, I don't know why, for some reason, he has a Molotov cocktail. And
he
he's on the
throws it
roof.
at the guy.
Why does he have a Molotov cocktail? Why is he on the roof of a courthouse? Was he expecting the KKK? I don't know. And then he chucks it at the KKK guy, and he just burns. I think he dies later on.
Yeah, he
but
does,
it's there's some serious music in the background during this
Yeah.
ridiculous scene as well. It's just I love it so much. It's so funny. Tell me you agree.
No, yeah, I do agree. It was very, just it was a lot. That's what it was. And obviously, like I kind of already hinted at, it also has that aspect of like trying to imply that the KKK is this relevant force. And yeah, it's just completely ridiculous to like think they'd ever actually, be this like proper beef. And the way just like everything just falls apart so quickly.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's wild.
But he
It
did a really
is.
bad job.
No, he did. So, sorry, did you say the police?
I said the police, yeah. But
Oh yeah, the police. Yeah, they did do a really bad job here. And of course, after that's at the start of the trial, and so eventually after that, we finally get to the start of the trial, and you're watching this and you kind of forget about Samuel L. Jackson because he's hardly in this movie. Because this film insists, like we said, on like 6 separate incidents of the KKK terrorizing the town. And it doesn't stop once the trial begins as well, which I initially thought it would while watching this movie for the first time, but no, they still turn up. And so we get to the trial, and it's kind of similar to what we said in I Am Sam, Michael. Again, melodramatic movies which aren't that good but quite funny. That these courtroom dramas are entertaining by themselves. Because, you've got people going, objection, Your Honour, sustained, counsellor.
I'll allow it.
courtroom, Yeah, I'll allow it.
better be going somewhere with this.
Yeah,
Classic
this better be
line.
good, counsellor. And it puts pressure on the counsellor to give something. Goes like, okay, let's go. But that's the thing. A courtroom is where dramatic moments can easily happen. People
Yeah.
are arguing, and they have researched their arguments because that's their job. So it's a place where conflict is natural and works very well, and it can be inherently interesting. And of course, that's why courtroom dramas are a genre in themselves. And yeah, that's what we said with I Am Sam. It can't be that bad because of the setting. And of course, when the deputy says to the jury, you gotta turn him loose. The one that's been shot in the leg.
Yeah.
Turn him loose.
Turn him loose.
And everyone makes a load of commotion. That
Yeah.
was great. And then something dramatic happens, and everyone is shocked, and the jury look at each other, going, "Oh man, I
Oh,
can't believe that
damn.
just happened." Oh damn! It's just, I love it. Courtroom dramas, Michael.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
are great.
that's why the Simpsons has a lot of that, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah,
Courtroom
yeah.
drama stuff.
It's like, I remember, not only was he not born in this state, he wasn't even born in this country. And the jury's like shocked. And then Lionel Hutz like, from now on, you tell me everything.
That's it. Who is he representing? Bumblebee?
He's representing, it's the one where President Quimby's nephew beats up the French waiter. It's like the French waiter is like, I am not a clumsy oaf.
Okay. Was it? He's French, yeah, not Italian.
Yeah,
That's
Oh,
Luigi.
yeah. Here comes a grease ball. Hey,
But that's the thing. Sorry,
It's
I cut you off
It's
with your
fine.
Simpsons riffing,
No,
which
yeah.
is the only thing you lived to
I know,
do.
yeah. As soon as you mentioned The Simpsons, I was just so excited.
Yeah, but that's the thing. The Simpsons uses that a lot because it's like, of course, funny scenarios can
Yeah.
present themselves, and I think every sitcom kind of does as well. But yeah,
Oh, it's always Sunny in
this-
Philadelphia. They like a good courtroom scene.
oh yeah, they do. But again, this isn't meant to be funny,
Yeah.
but it is. So of course, so the strategy from Matthew McConaughey
Oh, yeah.
is to get Samuel L. Jackson off by saying
He's insane.
So Sandra Bullock does a good job of exposing the doctor,
Mm.
of course, who ruled that Samuel L. Jackson wasn't insane.
Yes.
And Matthew McConaughey, of course, is proving it in court. Now, here's the thing. The problem is that Samuel L. Jackson's character is very clearly not insane. He knew what he was doing, and he is of sound mind. And therefore, the doctor is right. Now, normally when this happens in a movie, the doctor is corrupt and, the defense exposes him. But in this case, the doctor is spot on.
Yeah, it's basically
So-
watching somebody use kind of good arguments in a way, because it's a good argument, you know, they're all like, oh, you said someone was insane before and now they're in your insane place, but it's using a good argument to prove, and that's the thing, Kevin Spacey, he didn't even need to go for this.
Think about it. The writers then have written this doctor because they're like, okay, well, we can't. No doctor is actually going to say Samuel L. Jackson is insane, and it's obvious he isn't insane. There's no So he's definitely sane. So how can we get the jury to discredit this doctor? Let's write that this doctor
only ever says people are sane.
Yes, he only ever says people are sane, and he has a past where he has ruled insane patients sane unjustifiably and then ended up in his psychiatric hospital to make this doctor look, you know, ridiculous and suspect and expose him to the jury. It's such a fucking awful, transparently, they were thinking like, shit, how do we get the jury to discredit him? Let's write this about this doctor.
Yeah.
And the thing is, again, normally when this, you know, you expose a person on the stand in a movie, it's, you know, to do with the actual person. It's like, yes, Samuel L. Jackson is actually insane, and this doctor is lying about him not being insane. But that isn't the case. Like the lawyering by Matthew McConaughey is predicated on, you know, I guess this technicality, nothing to do with the actual, you know, situation with Samuel L. Jackson. And again, it's a legitimate tactic what Matthew McConaughey is doing in the movie. But the thing is, we are meant to root for him. We are meant to root for Samuel L. Jackson to get off, even though we know the defense by Matthew McConaughey is complete bullshit. He is completely sane. So this film relies on you believing that Samuel L. Jackson and his vigilantism, you know, before the trial even took place, of course, was therefore the right thing to do, because they're getting him off on a technicality. So therefore you can't, again, it's insanely pro-vigilantism, isn't it? But it's like, again, I just love how the writers wrote that in. It's like, yeah, okay, we can't, the jury, they've written themselves into the corner. The jury is obviously going to think that he's sane and any doctor is sane. So how about the doctor that looks at him is actually corrupt? Or maybe not corrupt, I don't know, just a fucking idiot, I'm not sure. One of the two. But yeah, what do you think about that?
I think like the big problem is it almost seems like the writers they've basically created a situation where like they've made it about insanity and yet they don't want it to really be about insanity. It's kind of like, and it's like a thing throughout, well, a lot of the film where it's like, or, you know, a lot of the trial really, where it's like they need the thing to be about insanity when really what they're actually arguing for is that this vigilante justice was justified. So it's kind of like they're talking about insanity and, you know, being like, oh, this proves that Samuel Jackson's insane. But it's like, obviously, you know, like you say, we know he's not insane. So it's really like, it's almost like Samuel L. Jackson is insane is kind of almost being presented in the film as like code word for Samuel L. Jackson was justified in doing what he was doing. The problem is, like, obviously, those are two very different things, and therefore they're like stuck in a weird situation.
Because that's what I was thinking when I was watching it first. It's like, well, how are you going to get him off? I was really interested. I was like, how are you going to get him off? Like, obviously he murdered these people. There's a ton of witnesses. The fucking fingerprints are on the gun. So how is he going to plead not guilty?
I was almost thinking it was going to have like a kind of shock ending, like a kind of realistic ending where he actually does get sent down. And it's like maybe, like that's actually kind of like, I was almost thinking to myself, okay, this will probably end with like, he actually does get sent down because they can't really prove it. And then it's just kind of a message about how like vigilante justice. Like, I actually thought, believe it or not, when I was like first going into this film, I was thinking to myself, hey, maybe they'll have a message about how vigilante justice ultimately doesn't work out. But no. I know, I feel so naive.
And then you cut to his kid and him hugging at the end, like with triumphant music, and it's like, I was wrong on that.
Yes.
I was wrong on that. No, but that's the thing, you are right, because, it is, you said it's a code word for him. Him being insane is like a code word for innocent. Because, I was like, how the hell are they going to get him off? What the fuck? Oh, they're saying he's insane? Well, he's obviously not insane.
Yeah.
And so, again, they have to do this, technicality stuff. To try and convince the jury that he actually might be insane, and of course, insane becomes a byword for innocence or a code word, and maybe that's what happens in real life as well. Maybe that is what happens in these trials, where the defense is relying on the jury to have sympathy for the person who killed whoever they did.
Yeah.
So it could be realistic, but again, the key thing is we are meant to root for Matthew McConaughey and Samuel L. Jackson. These are the good guys, even though their defense is complete bullshit, and we know it. So therefore, it requires you to get on their side, to hope that Samuel L. Jackson gets off. It requires you to be insanely pro-vigilantism. And, the bad guy, Kevin Spacey, at the end of the movie, what does he say? Like, knowing something is wrong does not give any of us the right to kill.
Yeah.
That's what he says. and we are basically meant to disagree and hope he loses the case because he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Again, it's insane, and it's like I Am Sam again with when Roger Ebert said, this movie has so much sentimentality and it tries its best to convince you to get on the side of an argument which is hopelessly wrong. That's what he said about that movie, and it's like, again, exactly the same thing here. It's crazy. But anyway, anything else to say on that?
Well, I mean, it's kind of it's following on from that, and I'm not sure. I did want to talk about a little thing about Matthew McConaughey being a bad lawyer in light of the cross-examination of his witness, his psychiatrist witness, because it's part of a wider thing of Matthew McConaughey being a transparently bad lawyer, which we kind of already touched on with his attitude towards Sandra Bullock, but I'm not sure if we can talk about that now. We could. Basically, I just wanted to say that so Matthew McConaughey, it's, within the context of the film, it's a weird argument to make, as we already covered, but he actually, like we also said, has a pretty solid argument against the prosecuting psychiatrist. He says, you said this guy's... But then the thing is, when they do his guy, it's just, you were convicted of statutory rape, which is like, okay, that's something that's bad, but it's not that relevant really to, and it's like a really long time ago, and it's almost like the prosecutor's
but how these juries are.
It's so transparently bad. But the funny thing about it is the way Samuel L. Jackson is just defeated. He's just oh, sorry, I don't have anything to say. It's kind of literally, I was just thinking to myself, if I was him, I'd at least stand up and just point out okay, that's a bad thing.
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, he should have. Yeah, he should. It's he should have just stood up and been yes, but that doesn't, just make that obvious point. Because like I said, I agree with you that it's something which, obviously I'm not denying that character assassination is relevant.
You think about the 1990s, I mean, just the South in general, is a convicted felon who's a rapist? Again, these things do matter to jurors because they have no idea.
But
and
I was just thinking about, all I was just going to say is I feel like Matthew McConaughey should have tried to point out to the jury this. But the other thing actually is obviously they bring up later on that actually it was, not that, was the difference 17 and 23, which again, but basically... he says and then they went on to get married, so it wasn't him being predator. Well, I don't know. You can make an argument.
You're saying they should have just brought it up?
Well, it's kind of, I'm surprised. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of okay, but it's kind of surprising he didn't bring it up in the moment. But overall, I just
but I mean, that's just bad writing.
No, yeah. That's just bad basically writing. I almost thought it was a case of it was almost like they were trying to make the prosecution look like they had a case by giving the prosecution a kind of bad case, if you get what I'm saying. Because it would have been very easy to give the prosecution a very strong case, but I feel like they kind of chose to give the prosecution this very weak kind of linchpin to their argument, at least early on, which is this guy's a statutory rapist. And it's it's almost an intentionally, it's what they call a straw man.
Wouldn't that be, you mean the defense?
No, I mean the prosecution has a bad argument in terms of it's quite an easy argument for Matthew McConaughey to when they could, basically, compared to the very obvious argument the prosecution could be making, it's I feel like they introduced this whole he's actually a statutory rapist, because that's an easier thing for Samuel L. Jackson to be to respond to later on by being actually,
Matthew McConaughey to respond to.
Yes, so I always get them confused because I don't see race. Sorry. Anyway, we can, but basically that's just part of a general thing. I just thought whatever. What do you want to talk about?
Right, well, I want to talk about the fact that Sandra Bullock then gets kidnapped.
Oh, okay.
Again, just another wild twist in this movie. Again, it just gets even more ridiculous, So the brother, of course, he shoots someone outside the courtroom. And just before this happens, where Sandra Bullock gets kidnapped, I'm right, this movie can't get any more ridiculous. And then it does.
Yeah.
This movie, like I said, this movie can't go for 5 minutes without having the KKK do something crazy. They think it will be boring otherwise. That has to be the case. And the thing what I find crazy about this is, doesn't she know who the kidnapper is, because the brother takes off his mask?
Yeah.
But then she doesn't talk to the police about getting kidnapped.
Yeah, the lack of enthusiasm for punishing the KKK is quite funny in this.
And yet, he's still at the trial at the end, the brother. He's still at the end of the movie, he's still at the trial. He fucking kidnaps someone, he snipes someone, and he's still not in jail. Incredible. So, of course...
It makes you realise how easy it would have been for Samuel L. Jackson to get away with murder, actually, based on how easy it was for this guy.
You know what? That's a good point. But anyway, so this is from. So we get to the end of the movie, Michael, and this is where the racial politics comes back to the forefront. So this is from Wiki. Dispirited, Brigance, who of course is played by Matthew McConaughey, tells Carl Lee, who's played by Samuel L. Jackson, that there is little hope for an acquittal. Carl Lee replies that he had chosen Brigance as an attorney because he is a white man and has insight into how the jury sees Carl Lee. When you look at me, he says, you don't see a man, you see a black man. You are my secret weapon because you are one of the bad guys. You don't mean to be, but you are. It's how you are raised. No matter how you see me different. You see me like the jury sees me. You are them. So this is interesting because, of course, Samuel L. Jackson is saying that America, or at least the American South, is kind of irredeemably racist.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. And that, of course, Matthew McConaughey is infected with it. And I think, well, basically, judging by Matthew McConaughey's argument at the end of the movie, he agrees with him.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, Samuel L. Jackson asks Matthew McConaughey, if you are on that jury, what would it take to convince you to set me free?
Yes.
So do you want to get onto that, Michael?
Well, yes.
What the
argument that would convince them is to imagine some...
No. Okay. Oh, so I thought you were going to say something about their jail conversation.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. The jail conversation. Well, yeah, the jail conversation, basically, I just think it was obviously... It's kind of interesting to have that whole thing of, like, this idea that America is... or like say particularly the southern US is irredeemably racist, just because obviously it is contrary to kind of racial reconciliation narratives. Because usually when we talk about clumsy films to do with race, it's kind of racial reconciliation narratives, like Drive Miss Daisy.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah, and obviously in this film, it's interesting that they don't do that.
But they do kind of do it at the end, which we'll get onto.
Yes.
But okay, so let's talk about, of course, if you were on that jury, what would it take to convince you to set me free? That's what Samuel L. Jackson asked Matthew McConaughey. And during closing arguments, a deeply shaken Matthew McConaughey tells the jury to close their eyes and listen to a story. He describes in slow and painful detail the entire ordeal of Tanya. Matthew McConaughey then asks the jury, in his final comments, to now imagine she's white.
Brilliant.
The most hilarious, superficial arguments. I was just thinking, as if that would work. These jury people would probably be offended by that. So you think, okay, so I can't imagine a heinous crime being done to someone if they're black, only if they're white.
Yeah.
Wow. And
I would be offended.
Yeah, and that's how you dismantle institutional racism. Just imagine if they were white.
This is John Lennon's politics.
And suddenly black people will be treated differently in the criminal justice system. In the Derek Chauvin case, imagine if George Floyd was white.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that incredible, Michael?
It's...
that argument.
Yeah, it is. It's stupid as an argument, just because of, the wider implications of it, that you can actually overcome all of this racial biases just by being I bet, racist people have never, ever thought to try to imagine themselves in the situation of other races, and it's just you just tell them to. It's also stupid in terms of the actual trial as well, and this was the moment and this is the specific reason why I found it so funny, because Matthew McConaughey torpedoes his own argument, and I was actually sat there thinking to myself, it's so funny that the jury is yes, I'm on board with this. And I was thinking to myself, this would just completely solidify beyond any doubt that Samuel L. Jackson's guilty. Because what Matthew McConaughey basically stands up and does is gets the audience or the jury rather, to relate to Samuel L. Jackson's anger and his desire to murder these two people. And it's that would go against the argument that he's insane. So it's kind of literally, if this...
Well, that's what we talked about, really, the insane argument being a code word for innocence.
Exactly,
everyone kind of knows he's not insane, but, it's just we'll get him off on a technicality, really, because he definitely did commit those murders, and he definitely wasn't insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, he does kind of go against his own argument, because the thing is, in closing, he doesn't focus on...
the insanity thing.
Samuel... Yeah, he doesn't. And again, you can say, well, that's a legitimate tactic that people use. But again, this is meant to be the argument which convinces not just, the jury, but the audience as well. He's the good guy.
Yeah.
And again, it's he still wasn't insane, though. That's the thing. And again, he, he's just literally calling the jury racist as well. you wouldn't care if this kid was black, which of course is, but you would care if they were white.
Yeah.
And everyone gasps, and it's oh my God, I can't believe it. And he says that, the way we judge things are with human eyes, not colorblind eyes. And, and he's breaking up while he's saying it.
I know, yeah.
He's biting his lip. It's just freaking great. I mean, it's not great acting, it's bad acting. But to be fair, saying all this, it's just, I don't know how you make this convincing at all. Yeah. Again, the fact is that Samuel L. Jackson did kill these people, regardless of what happened to his kid. And that's what I'd come back to.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, okay, yeah, sure. if I was on the jury, I'd be like, yeah, that's awful, of course. And white, I mean, because I'm not racist, Michael. I'd be like, oh, white or black, I don't care. But he did still kill these people. Again, the movie doesn't want you to really focus on the insane bit. They have to do it because that's how he gets off. So but they want to focus on this, and I just love that. Like, now imagine if they were white. Just blows everyone's
This
mind.
is actually, so I don't know about you, but I'd actually seen this. Actually, I guess you hadn't, if you hadn't heard of A Time to Kill. I'd seen this clip just like on YouTube, and I want to go back to it because I'm sure I'm right in saying that the clip's like, wow, this is such a powerful moment. Of course, because it's YouTube, but that thing, like, and obviously
every movie clip on YouTube is like that, so that's nothing special. But the thing is, imagine if they were white. It's just like a childish argument.
Oh yeah.
And what if the jury, they're sitting there and like they don't react, and then Matthew McConaughey goes, oh shit, and imagine if the rapists were black, and then everyone goes like that.
Scary.
That's what gets them on side. Yeah, imagine if it was two black men raping a little white girl.
Yeah,
and then Samuel L. Jackson just looks at Matthew McConaughey. Did you have to add that last detail? Yeah. Did you have to? And it's like, hey, it worked. That would be fun.
I would have liked it if Kevin Spacey would have done the exact same thing and just been like, these two men rape a girl and then get shot. Now imagine if they were black. Then you'd like them. Then you'd support them, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But it's just so I imagine being convinced about that. It's like something from a skit. Like someone saying something so ridiculous and childish and outlandish. Imagine if they were white. And then it cuts to the little black kid running out of the courtroom saying, he's innocent, he's not guilty, or whatever. It's just,
I'll tell you what it reminds me of. There's one of the sketches by everyone's favourite sketch group, The Whitest Kid You Know, where the guy stands up he's like the lawyer, and he's like, the evidence here has been absolutely damning. This client is clearly guilty, I admit it. But considering that, wouldn't it be crazy if you guys found him innocent anyway? Everyone would want to hear your stories. It would be massive news if you just decided in spite of all this evidence. And then the judge is just like, you can't do that. Ignore that, jury. And I was like, and that's literally like the kind of argument here. It's like, obviously this guy was not crazy. He literally did kill these people in front of everyone. It's undeniable he's guilty of murder. But wouldn't it be crazy if you guys just let him off because, rape is bad? Like,
and imagine if his kid was white. Yes. Oh my god.
But they wouldn't like it if his kid was white because that would be race mixing.
Yeah. Imagine if the kid was white. Imagine if Samuel L. Jackson was white.
And his kid was white.
That's what Matthew McConaughey should do. Points. Imagine if he was white. And the jury look at him.
Oh, I tell you what that reminds me of actually. It reminds me of when the Onion article where it's teenage girl who stabbed classmate to death to be tried as a black adult. And it's like, from now on, her name will be changed to Charmone Dwayne or whatever. And the jury has been instructed to picture her not as a young white girl, but as a tall black man.
Yeah.
It's like, yes.
So that's the thing. Obviously, the criminal justice system in America treats people differently based on the colour of their skin. And the thing is, Matthew McConaughey, like, he's admitting that and he's trying to get around that, because if people see it out in the open, then they can kind of navigate that, because they've got these subconscious biases. But like, that's the thing, if that happens, I imagine the jurors will be like, well, do you expect me to fall for that trick?
Yeah.
Like, do you expect me that I'm such like a moron that I'd be like, oh, imagine he was white? And like, again, if I was the jury, I'd be like insulted.
Yeah. Also, can the judge and the prosecution not do the whole objection thing in the fight? Because it's like they're doing a lot of objections and, know what? That's what I was thinking. Shouldn't Kevin Spacey object? Is like, objection, Your Honor. That's completely irrelevant. The race of the victim is irrelevant. Like, why are you bringing racism up here? Like, this got nothing to do with the situation. And I think he would have grounds. But we all know the judge would go, "I'll allow it. You better be onto something good here."
What? This video, that speech is going to get a lot of views on YouTube, so I'll allow it. Yeah. I'll allow it. That was a great speech, counselor. That if you didn't deliver it as well as you did, I would have rejected it.
Judge gives a standing ovation at the end.
Well, not that judge. He wouldn't. No, but it's interesting that that's the thing. He starts off being quite racist, or just basically on the side of Kevin Spacey, and then throughout the trial, because I guess this needs to happen for fucking Matthew McConaughey to have an argument. He starts to let Matthew McConaughey off the hook a bit more.
Yeah.
As long as it's a good argument. But anyway, so of course, oh yeah, at the end, once the verdict, is, I just love when the KKK are in their full robes and the black protesters are waiting outside the courtroom, like just standing next to each other, casually. They're just hanging out like two sides of a fucking a football.
Well, it's
game.
because racism was over as soon as the jury read their result or decided their result. Racism ended, so that's why they're all together.
Well, but no, I mean it's
no, they haven't heard the result yet, but just the power of the jury's decision has already made them be together.
Well, we'll get onto that in a bit, but yeah, I just love that people would still turn up in their KKK robes, just casually, just not to do it, just to wait for the verdict of the trial.
They don't have any clean clothes.
Yeah, it's just it's so ridiculous. I love it though. I love it, and of course Samuel L. Jackson hugs his kid, and yes, of course the movie right there is saying yes, his vigilantism was the correct thing. The death penalty was the right thing for those rapists. There was a time to kill, and he did it. There was a time, and he was there. And of course, at the end of the movie, Michael, well, racial tensions are over, I guess. There is hope for the South as Matthew McConaughey and Samuel L. Jackson's kids played together. A reference, of course, to MLK and his "I Have a Dream" speech. And Matthew McConaughey literally goes to the cookout at the end. Y'all, he's invited to the cookout.
More likely cookout.
Okay, right. And the message is, yes, the South might be racist, and juries can only be convinced to provide justice. I say that, because I don't think it really is justice for black people if they imagine that they are white. But, that's progress, Michael. That's progress. Yeah, and just imagining that this black victim of a rape was white, and that we're getting somewhere here. And the thing is, it's the most pathetic feel-good ending ever, because the thing is, the movie 5 minutes before admits, Samuel L. Jackson kind of says, the South is racist, it's irredeemably racist, there's a split between us that can't be, healed. And like you said, most movies don't do that, especially in the 1990s, because it's it's all about racial harmony, we want a feel-good ending, that racial tension dies down, the animosity between black and white people goes away. But the thing is that Samuel L. Jackson speech at the end makes you think, oh, okay, so this movie's not doing that. Okay, that's interesting. But then literally 5 minutes later it does. Because, Matthew McConaughey's kids plays together, they play together with fucking Samuel L. Jackson's kids. So it's like, you know what, maybe there is hope for the South, And it's again, I think it's crazy to think that if the situation is like this in 1996, it's not going to be different a year later. You could do this movie in 1966 because, of course, you had a lot of things going on with the civil rights movement. But, if the situation is still this bad in 96, I don't see how you can have a feel-good ending, really, if you've admitted to yourself how racist the South is.
I mean, to be fair, this film, it's not adverse to contradiction, considering it literally has, Samuel L. Jackson basically completely debunk his own argument to being insane, and then immediately after that has the jury let him off. This film, it's a web of contradictions, and certainly I do think it's true that this film, it feels like everything about it feels like it is, one of those lazy kind of simplistic racial reconciliation narratives. So it's almost...
Oh, wow, you're calling this movie simplistic.
Yeah,
wow.
I know. But it's kind of... So it's almost like jarring the way the film does try to have this kind of more nuanced take with Samuel L. Jackson, basically pointing out the reality of ingrained racial biases. But yeah, I think it's kind of yeah, I mean, it seems like the film's saying that, but like you say, it's not really sticking to it. And of course, there's already there's a fact I hinted out already, which is how is Samuel L. Jackson not just going to immediately get killed by the KKK, considering how powerful they've been shown to be in the film so far?
Oh yeah, so the KKK have now taken over this town. Yes. Things are much worse in terms of racial tensions. Matthew McConaughey maybe have been invited to the cookout, but things are really bad.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically, apparently a lot of white people in this town are now, in the KKK. And I imagine a lot of white people in Mississippi would be pissed that this black guy got off for killing people. And they would be right, maybe not for racist reasons, but in terms of being a miscarriage of justice. So yeah, I don't think racial relations would be better after this movie, I have to say. And yeah, they might kill Samuel L. Jackson, who, by the way, should be in a mental institute, right?
Yeah, I'm confused by that. I think the way they get around the fact of is by saying he was temporarily insane. Because as I said, it's he temporarily became insane because of the thing, and it's that seems I don't know, yeah, he definitely should, there should be an implication, if you get let off on grounds of insanity, surely there has to be some kind of follow-up. You can't be he murdered 2 people because he was insane, but it was a temporary insanity. And it's okay, in that case, yeah, just let him go.
A complete technicality again.
Yeah, hopefully he won't be insane again.
Yes, let's hope.
Yeah, to be fair,
It's
also,
not
it should be pointed out, like, now that they've established this precedent, he could basically kill anyone, right? Because they can just be like, well, we've already established the precedent that he was temporarily insane. It just happened again.
Yeah, and also, what if the KKK people use that defense? They could use that precedent. Well, we killed Samuel L. Jackson because...
Some guy got set on fire.
Yeah, I was... Well, yeah, he killed my brother. That was what, the guy could say.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Yeah, he killed my brother, so I was temporarily insane
It's
after he
almost
got
as
let
if
off.
vigilante justice can lead to just a spiraling revenge cycle.
Yeah, that's a good point, Michael. I think that concludes us talking about the plot of the movie. Again, a lot of funny things, I think it's fair to say. But what is also funny, Michael, is the reaction in France. So I got this off the Wikipedia page. I don't know why this was the specific reaction in France, but it was. So the film was the subject of controversy. Critics accused the movie of making an apology for the death penalty and the right of self-defense. I mean, that is what the movie does do, so I don't know what the accusation is. A question mark was added at the end of the title, Le droit de tuer, which is the right to kill, question mark, so as to not shock the audience. Amnesty International France uses the word disturbing when referring to the film in one of its documents. Les Inrockupables.
That's weird.
There we go.
They need to sort out their words.
Described the film as nauseating, striking, almost fascist, with an ultra-populist script that makes one want to vomit. Yes, I won't go that far, but I definitely think it is pretty bad. Yeah. Libération criticised the script, calling it extremely dirty. Oh, that's the most French insult ever. The movie, says the newspaper, militates in favour of the black cause only to legitimise, after many plot buckles, the resurrection of the KKK, the deceit of the courts, threats of many kinds, the mentally ill gesture of the avenging father. According to Libération, the movie justifies the indefensible with a dripping sentimentalism.
Wow,
What do you think, Michael?
Who would have thought that the country that gave us cuties would actually be right on the ethics of the film? I would agree, and I think sometimes France, they gave us the French Revolution, and maybe because of that, sometimes they can be on the cutting edge of I guess with the French Revolution, literally cutting edge. Am I right? But sometimes they can be right about liberal values and stuff like that, and definitely, I do think ultimately, a film that basically says that the state should have the right to do something which nobody should have the right to do, by defending it of dripping sentimentalism. That's a good term. I like that. Like that speech. And it's just like, yeah, when you think about it, shouldn't you just be allowed to take somebody's life sometimes? I think it's definitely right to say that that's kind of gross and definitely against sort of liberal values.
Well, the thing is, of course, they point it out basically the fact that the black cause is only there to legitimise the pro-vigilantism, pro-death penalty stance. Again, a deeply conservative, stance that they have. And it's just, but it's a black person who we're rooting for, so that's fine. To use a trick from the movie, imagine if Samuel L. Jackson was white in this movie.
No, yeah, I think that's a good point. And I do think it's true that a lot of the time you do get these people who the identity politics of race can easily be used to foster kind of certain contradictory views. And actually, the reality is that I do think it is true that the whole, imagine if somebody was a different race can cut both ways, where I think you can get situations where, obviously.
I think it does here.
Yeah.
But imagine, there's the thing, if Samuel L. Jackson was white in this movie and it was a white guy, just remove the racial element, people would call this movie disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe not disgusting. Well, they would call it disgusting if two black people murdered his white kid.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be disgusting. Well, that's the thing. If you just change the identities, then it can reveal something.
Yeah.
And it's a stupid trick from the movie to decide whether somebody is guilty or not guilty, because it doesn't have an impact on the case itself. And yeah, it's a childish trick. But if you look at it this way, in terms of if it's not about racism or black people being treated fairly, and it's if it's a white character in this role, then it's like, oh yeah, no, absolutely, this vigilantism and this pro-death penalty movie is kind of weird and it's wrong. So yeah, I agree. With what the French people are always right, Michael.
Yeah, that is true.
That's what we learn. So I'll go first in terms of the conclusion. Again, I think this movie is quite funny. I will say that a lot of the time, and there are some absolutely ridiculous scenes, ridiculous plot points. And I had a real good time watching it, I have to say. A lot of it was quite funny, but it's a bad movie, and its message, and this is the key thing, Michael, its message ain't great, and that I think is pretty vital in determining whether a movie is good or not. Its overall message, pro-vigilantism, death penalty, trying to hide it behind, oh yeah, but this black person, he's fighting racism. Nah, you're not tricking me, Michael. You're not tricking me like Matthew McConaughey tricked the jury. So I am going to give this, I think, what do you think would be a good score? 3 out of 10?
Yeah.
I think a 3 out of 10. What did I give I Am Sam? Because it's very similar, even though the message is worse. I Am Sam, I gave a 2 out of 10. It's more competent than I Am Sam.
That's
I
the
give
thing.
Sean Penn's performance was more offensive, so I'll give it a 3 out of 10.
No, yeah, I think that basically I'll agree that this film has a bad message. I said that this film was average, and obviously I think, from a competence standpoint, I do think it is kind of average, and I kind of agree with you of like how the competence of this film makes it maybe more tolerable. And I was kind of just like left. I think one of the problems is like when you have a film that's trying to manipulate you and not succeeding, it's kind of hard just to not really get anything out of it. So definitely, but yeah, I said so. Average would imply like a 5, and to be honest, no, I think not that. I'm not gonna quite drop it down to a 3, just because I don't know, just because why not? But I am gonna drop it down to a 4. So it's that's a bad rating because now I've really thought about like this film is
okay.
I was kind of already aware of everything we spoke about, but having really spoken it through, I'm like, it's not good.
That's happening quite a lot recently, isn't it? Like you think, it's okay, and then we speak about a movie, and I basically give you all the arguments, Michael, because you're too dumb.
And I change. Yeah, I do admit actually. I seem to. I feel like I don't know. Maybe for some reason I'm getting more. Yeah, I'm getting more non-committal with my. I mean, part of it does actually genuinely come from the fact that I feel like we've been looking at more films where I've had like mixed feelings on them. Where there have been, and in this case, I guess with this film, it's like I say the mixed feelings. It was like competent. So I was like, oh, it was it was competent, and I was like, yeah, but there's stuff I didn't like.
Again, like a 2.5 out of 10. Actually, I'll put it down to.
I promise you that for the next film, I will give a very clear, definitive statement on how I feel about it.
Okay, well, I have put it down another half point because I just realised again, they didn't even fucking stand trial and he killed them.
Oh, hold on a minute. I just wrote something else. I meant to mention this. They never actually like give any real payoff on like the random KKK guy who's like giving like kind of giving him tips behind the scenes.
Mickey Mouse guy,
he just literally like appears, and it's like then nothing happens to him afterwards. It's really strange.
Yeah, because they can't fit in because it's already 2.5 hours, and it's so bloated they have to cut some necessary stuff out, I guess. But anyway, that's it. I guess until the end. Well, that is it. That's the end of our review. What are we reviewing next week, Mike?
Next week we're reviewing. Well, actually, this would have been an appropriate thing to review around.
It's Ghostbusters.
Yes,
because we have
around
to go.
time Halloween. Ghostbusters.
Yes, but we're doing that because of Ghostbusters Afterlife. So see you next week. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.